and we'll get right into it.
Cool.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Zen Perry Project. Today on the show, we have Michael Wilbur of Moon Hooch and Thundersmack, and just in general, extremely prolific musician, artist, producer. Your range of music goes from like jazz, experimental, to hip hop. Incredible saxophone player, and definitely one of the guys killing it right now in the music industry. I'm very, very excited to talk to you today. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks so much, man. Thanks for having me.
So, where are you currently based in New York City?
No, so I lived in New York for about 10 years and then I moved back to Massachusetts where I'm from. I live now in Western Mass.
And what was the big idea for the switch?
Well, I'm not, to be clear, I'm not from Western Mass. I'm from Brockton, Massachusetts. Then I moved to New York City. And basically, I was touring so much that it didn't really make sense to be paying as much as I was for what I was getting. You know, New York City apartments are just, you pay $2,500 for a tiny room, like not the best neighborhood, you know. So I decided to move back to Mass. My buddy bought a house, and I moved there for a minute, and then I moved out to Western Mass, got married. The place we were living before wasn't so great, so we decided to move out here. It's beautiful here. It's like you can see, it got mountain views and shit.
Yep. I'm like, look in my basement in Brooklyn. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't have quite the view that you do currently. Well, that's awesome. And would you kind of say that New York City was a big part of you being your successful? Because I know you started off with Moon Hooch, kind of getting in the subway system and playing all that. Like, what was New York City to you? And do you recommend that musicians kind of in general try moving there for a specific thing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you are an aspiring musician that wants to make a career in music, I'd say New York City or LA are the two places to be. That will really jumpstart your career if you're really hungry for it. I went to New York like I'm gonna crush this. That was my mentality. I like my first week in school, I went around the whole city. I was living in the dorms. I went to the new school. I was living in the dorms on 8th Street in Manhattan, just a couple blocks down from St. Mark's. And I printed out business cards. I went around everywhere. Like, I'll play here, like for beer. I just wanted to play. I was so hungry to be heard and to play. And then I started playing in the subways, and that's really what accelerated things for me.
Yeah, and how did that kind of turn about, and like where I guess what were your stops? What were your stations that you would primarily play when you first started out?
Yeah. Bedford L was definitely one of the most at first when we first started. Bedford was like the Williamsburg used to be really cool. It used to be like kind of sketchy still. Like you were like, I don't know, you had to look around still. Like, you know, I don't know. Williamsburg now feels like Soho to me or something. Um, you know, so it was a cool spot. There were a lot of young people, a lot of artists. It was mostly artists, like, and that's where we would have rowdy subway parties. Like it would get crazy, and police had to break it up multiple times, which was fair enough because it was definitely dangerous. And we're lucky nobody died, you know. Yeah.
How
So,
crazy how
but
how crazy was it
great
getting? What,
times.
what was it? Are you just worried about people falling off the tracks, or like?
Yeah, I mean, so the craziest night, and I think it's still on YouTube. There's a video called "Only in Williamsburg, Brooklyn" from like 2010, and um, it's us. It's just the three of us playing, and um, probably I don't know, 100, 200, 300 people. Just it's like a rave, like jumping up and down, just going wild, rashing. And this started becoming a thing. People would bring drinks down there. People started getting crunk on the subway platform. So that's why it was sketchy. You know what I mean? Because it's like, it should really, the function of the train station is not that.
It's not a venue.
No, it was, but it was our only venue at first. So,
And
you know,
what do you think kind of like what was the turning point for you guys to be like, okay, we're gonna start playing venues or we're gonna start touring? What was kind of the next thing that sort of happened in your guys' musical career?
um, well, we made a lot of contacts in the subways. The most, probably the biggest propellant for us in our career was when Mike Doty dropped his, or he took our email and shot us an email. You know, we had our all of our info there, and he wrote us an email and asked us to go on a national tour. And we had only played local gigs at that point in Brooklyn, Manhattan, and um, so we were like, "Is this real?" We actually thought it was spam at first because we hadn't heard of him. No offense, Mike, but we hadn't heard of him personally. I had heard of his band Soul Coughing. Um, they had a bunch of big hits in the '90s. So we're like, "Is this for real?" Like somebody wants to bring us on tour for 30 days. And sure enough, it was. We looked him up. We're like, holy shit, this dude's huge. He's super prolific musician. Um, and yeah, that was huge for us, man, because it was like 1,200 person rooms packed out every night. You know, we're 21 years old. I was 20 maybe. And it was just like a dream come true. Like we had been busking for like eight, how long was it? Maybe a year. I think we were busking for about a year at that point. And we were putting in work. We were down there like 8 hours a day. Like we were really putting in work. That was how we made our money. We had no jobs. Um, so yeah. So
And at
my
what
favorite,
point?
yeah,
Yeah, no, good, good.
my favorite part of those times was like at the end of the night, busking, coming back. We all lived in the same apartment building. They lived across the hall from me. Um, but we'd come back and dump all the money on the floor. We all the money would be in the bass drum case, and we just dump it all on the floor and get a couple beers and sit around and count money together, just ones. It was great. Sometimes we'd find 100 in there, you know, or like there was once we found a couple hundreds, like multiple people threw $100 bills in. So that was always a fun experience. Um, I miss those days, man. You know, it's different now. It's different when you get written checks and like I don't miss the 8 hour days in the subway, but um, you know,
It taught
there's
you how to
nothing.
grind. Taught you how to
Yeah,
grind for sure. And like now, I mean, now you tour all the time. Like, what would you say is
yeah.
kind of like the big difference? Do you? I have so many questions about you and touring, but that I will get to at some point. But like, kind of what does your day look like as far as the grind? Like, what do you have to do every single day now? That's like your 8 hour thing. Like, how do you see posting? How do you see communicating with people? How do you see
Hmm.
collaborating? What does like a day look
Totally.
like, or what does your schedule look like?
Yeah, man. It's so much more complicated now. It's like back then we were just like, you know, jazz punks. We just like whatever. We lived in like a crappy apartment in Bushwick, paid like $400 a month for rent. Um, but all we did was play. You know, we're like, whatever, we'll just play until we have enough money on the street. It was very simple. Like we weren't even a business yet, you know. But yeah, it's become much more complicated, especially having more projects, having my own solo career now. Like you said, posting, um, that's only really part of it. Like, man, it's so much. Where to begin? Um, well, traveling in and of itself just takes so much time. Like getting to the airport, getting. I'll give you an example. So, this last Thursday, I played a show in Joshua Tree, but I'm also preparing for a DJ set that I'm doing, a big DJ set at this event coming up, and where I'm playing sax and also playing with other musicians. And um, I'm pretty new to DJing, so it's kind of a big deal for me. And so anyway, Thursday I fly to Joshua Tree. Friday I play the show, spend the day in the desert, and then at 6 a.m. on Saturday I fly home so that I can keep running the set. Um, you know, and then I'm home for 3 days, run the set, and then now I'm flying to Chicago to play a show with Moon Hooch, and then doing another 6 a.m. flight to Portland, Maine, playing this event, and then the next day flying to a tree planting event because Moon Hooch does tree planting events. So that's 3 days, and that's 3 days straight, just back to back flights. Um, and all the while, I'm also preparing for this Thundersmack tour that's coming up, preparing the live set, mixing it, producing it, composing new music. And I'm just doing that like any free moment I get, basically, while also writing music for my solo project. So it's like, and I'm my own manager at this point, and Moon Hooch's manager. So it's just kind of a lot, man. It's like, it's a lot of
Do you have a
hats.
label? Do you guys have a label? I was looking that up. Is this all you guys? You and your pals?
It's just us, yeah, just independent.
And is
We
that
used to have labels. We used to have labels,
okay?
but it's just not unless they're like putting a ton of energy into the artist. It's kind of like it's just a no interest rate loan, like if they give you an advance or something. It's good if you really need the money now, but a label is only really good for that. It's like, pushing you, putting together things for you. And we had that a little bit with our first label, but it wasn't worth like the deals that we got out of it for us,
Yeah,
per se, just strictly in terms of recordings. But there's a lot of advantages to having a manager and a label and all of those things. It's doable now, and I feel like Wolfpack is such a great example, and they really led the way with like showing that artists can control their business and can be their own CEOs, and that it's much more profitable and you can be successful doing it. It makes it into a full-time job. When we had a manager and a label, it was more like kicking back. We're rock stars. We're just, show up at the show, set up, play the show, go on to the next one. You have a crew, everything's taken care of. And we have a much more stripped down crew now. And when you realize and you think about the numbers and you really look at it, you're like, I'd rather just do that myself. At least I can't speak for everybody, but personally, myself and Wenzel were like, this is not worth 20% off the top, because the touring life is just grueling. That's the labor, and for somebody to come in and take 20% of that before expenses just isn't fair, in my opinion. And I think a lot of artists are feeling this way these days.
absolutely. And so I mean, you mentioned all the things you're doing, all the things you're balancing. Where the hell does like posting, keeping, engaged on social media, and where does working out fit into your whole lifestyle? How do you even tour and keep up with both of those things just in general, and while making music and collaborating, all these other things that you're doing?
Mm-hmm.
And also having a relationship, being married.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, my wife is very understanding. When we actually met at a music festival, so she knew what my lifestyle was like, and it actually works really well. She's also an artist. She's a fashion designer, visual artist, and so we both like alone time, and I also get a good amount of time at home. I'll have stretches where it's like I'm gone pretty much for 2 months straight with a couple of times home, but then I'll be home for a month straight, or a month and a half, and be working at home in my studio. So that we found a really nice balance with that. Working out for me is like a religious thing now at this point in my life. It's a no, it's part of my daily practice. It's like if I'm at the point where I don't really have to like push myself to work out. It's more like I just do it because it's become such a routine, and I feel so much better when I do. Um, so I actually look forward to working out. It's like my favorite part of the day. Go to the hotel gym, even if it's 1 a.m. I'll hit a 30-minute workout 1 a.m. After the show, just to get it in because like I'm addicted to the pump. It's like I just love it. Or I'll go for a run. I do a lot of cardio. I try to do cardio every day. I try to go for at least a 2 mile run every day. And I live by some really nice trails here, which is another reason I moved out here. So that's just like the fun part of my day. And yeah, in terms of posting, you know, I try to do things in batches. That's kind of the key for me is just batch create content and hold on to it and space it out realistically. Like sometimes I'll have the tendency to batch stuff. I'll make like 6 videos and then I'll just put it out 6 days in a row. And then I'm like, shit, now I don't have content. I'm on the road for 2, 3 months. Um, you know, so, and I don't make tons of content when I'm on the road. When I'm on the road, I'm more focused on like getting my workouts in, making sure I'm getting good food, um, and composing music. I kind of go into composition mode because I do a lot of stuff on Ableton. So in the van, I'll just like zone out on production and composition. Um, and then besides that, there's not tons of time on the road. It's like you wake up in the morning, you know, hopefully get a workout in. That's the best time to get it in. And then we usually hit Whole Foods or a co-op. We try to hit co-ops because they support local communities. Whereas obviously Whole Foods is just a corporate conglomerate. But Whole Foods has better options than Walmart. So, and I'm also vegan. I have been for 12 years. So that's kind of another no compromise situation is like, I just need good, healthy food. I like vegetables, fresh vegetables, and, some kind of protein. I eat shit tons of tofu.
I was gonna ask. I was like, "What do you do?" Because I've been vegetarian my whole life. I'm like, "Yeah, tofu's it, I guess,
Nice.
right?"
Dude, tofu's the shit. You can do so much with tofu.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
that's super cool.
yeah, and then you get to the venue, you unload, and basically have to sound check right away, and that takes sometimes upwards of 3 hours. We have a pretty extensive setup, and our sound checks are always. My friend Honeycomb, who opens for us sometimes, is like, he's always like, dude, you guys play a whole show in your sound check because we'll play for like an hour and a half at sound check, like tweaking shit and the way we run stuff, we run everything through Ableton, so it's just very complex. But anyway,
Well, no, I'm curious about that.
Yeah,
If you want to talk about it, I mean, like, what is your
sure.
rig like with Ableton? Because I use backing tracks as a drummer, but I am looking to get into Ableton for kind of the shows that I do that with. Like, what is your general rig for Ableton? Do you have a backup for a computer if it goes down? What does that look like for you?
We don't. We really should have one. It's crazy. Um, yeah, we've had some times, but it's usually fine. We need to get a backup computer. I guess we technically do have a backup because we have our personal computers, which are the same strength, if you will, as the Moon Hooch computer. Um, so yeah, I guess we have backups, but our system is pretty streamlined. We have the computer, we have an X32 Behringer rack that we use as an interface, and we just plug everything from stage into that and run multi-track into Ableton and have the whole set is through composed. And this is what I do with my solo music as well, my solo shows. Um, I plug it all into the rack, and then in Ableton it's through composed A to Z, and then I have we have MIDI loops happening within that using In my solo set, I use CliffX. I don't know if you've ever heard of CliffX,
No.
but it's like a Ableton scripting language, Python language, and you can basically make super like customized scripts for Ableton that are beyond Max MSP or Ableton functions. So that's super useful. I used that pretty extensively in my last solo tour with auto looping, so I don't have to hit a loop pedal. I'm playing to a click track, and once I get to a certain point, it basically loops whatever I want
Without having to press anything?
without having to press anything. Yeah,
Whoa. Okay, I gotta look into that. That
yeah,
sounds really cool.
yeah. So yeah, CliffX Auto Looper, it's called. Mm.
Sick.
So you could be like record saxophone on bar 300 for
Hmm.
4 bars, and it'll record that, and then you can say record another layer, and play around with that, and then you could have kind of more of a master loop happening that is then looping these things, and with another controller have the so each saxophone is recording to a different track, and you could basically DJ with your loops. So you know maybe there's other things out there like that. There probably is. I'm pretty new to the looping stuff and all that. So, but I think it's pretty nifty.
Yeah, what do sound people think when they see your rig or your band's rigs when you show
Mm.
up? Are they always surprised by it, or are they like, this is
Um,
what do they think?
so I think a lot of venues at this point like have know us and know that that's our rig. Because we've been hitting a lot of the same places for a couple of years now. Um, and we also send a technical rider weeks in advance that have like in all bold red letters, like, please do not argue with the band about the setup. We are sending a left, right to front of house. It's like, you
Great.
know, because it used to be we'd send it and they'd argue with us and be like, well, you should send a submix and let us mix it. And we're like, no, absolutely not. You have no idea what we have going on. And they'd be like, well, I've been doing this 30 years. You know what I mean? And it's like, all right, dude, well, you haven't mixed Moon Hooch ever. So,
Yeah.
you know,
That's great.
classic.
Speaking of some places that you have played, you've done well, first off, you've done Red Rocks, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, I have. Yep.
And you've done Tiny Desk concert, and those are I think you're actually for I think the first person we've had on that's played Tiny Desk. Um,
Cool.
I guess what were some of your most your shows that you're like, wow, damn, I'm doing the music thing like for you. And
Yeah.
if you just want to tell us about them.
Definitely those two were up there with that. I mean, Tiny Desk was really emotional for me. That was 4 years into us being a band, and we had already had a bunch of ups and downs, and um, it was just so life confirming, you know.
Mm.
Like the whole office was there. It was such a strong moment, and I just remember like just an overwhelming sense of gratitude.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think I cried.
good.
Yeah, it was just like it was one of those moments, those life moments where it's just like, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
You know.
What were some of the downs when you were first starting out? I guess once you went from, playing the subway to like, okay, you're getting shows that are
Mm.
actually like touring and stuff like that. What were some of your downs? Did you have any kind of moments where you were like second guessing yourself or like
Mm.
in your head?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the most difficult moments are like being confined in a van. I mean, we used to travel in like a minivan, you know, and we toured so hard. Like there were some years where we did like 250 gigs or more. We were just on the road all year in a minivan, just like, and it got rough too, like just interpersonal drama It's just inevitable in those situations. At least for a lot of people. Maybe some people are just perfect, but um, it got tough at times. So we worked through a lot as a band. Um, and I'd say that was the hardest thing, really. The shows were always great, always have been. Um, it's just the exhaustion, the touring. Like, you know, I don't drink alcohol anymore, but back when I used to drink, it was like that was a big factor of just feeling like garbage the next day.
Yeah.
Um, that never helped, you know. So,
No.
um,
When did you decide to kind of to kick that?
in July 3 years ago, so it's almost been 3 years since I had a drink. Um, but it wasn't like like AA I'm sober move.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I'm not sober. Like I smoke weed. I'm California sober.
Hell yeah.
But like it just started giving me a headache and making me feel anxious. If I'm being completely honest, like I kept trying to drink. Basically, the amount I could drink started really declining. Like after 2 beers, I'd feel like garbage. And then after one, I just started being like, this isn't even fun. Like, I like the way it tastes, but it gives me a headache. Maybe I got allergic to it, started making me anxious. I don't know. But I just noticed that and, took the call. I was like, okay, why do I keep picking this thing up if I don't even enjoy it?
Yeah, what's the point?
So exactly. So sometimes I see like when I'm at a party, I'm like, damn. But I'm a streak person. I like really get into streaks.
Okay.
Like I'll be like, all right, I'm gonna like, oh, I haven't taken a day off working out for 20 days, and I'm gonna see how far I can push that. You know, I'm not like I just get into that kind of thing. So I think the drinking thing is kind of similar. I'm like, well, it's been 3 years. Why stop now?
Yeah.
You know, like I always used to meet people that don't drink, and I'm like, that's like a superpower. Like you can always drive.
Yeah.
So
No,
I'm
absolutely. Yeah. Especially, moving to New York City. I moved here last year and I was like, I just realized I was like, oh, nobody drives. Everybody, that's why
right.
the bars are always, pretty much you can always
Yeah,
get a drink somewhere. Um,
exactly.
yeah, I've definitely had to check myself in the last few months because I mean, just not like it was getting completely out of control, but it's just like not having to do anything else. It's like I'm just so much more productive when I don't do it.
Yep,
And yeah,
exactly.
I think and I think a lot of the anxiety comes from the fact that there's so much shit that I want to do, and a lot of people like yourself. I mean, I would say you are probably like a type A person if I had to diagnose you right now, and feeling like shit in the morning is just
I've
not really
gotten that.
conducive.
No, it's the worst. Nobody likes that.
No, what were you like as a no? What were you like as a kid? What were you kind of getting into? When did you decide you wanted to play sax? Like what was kind of the the quick version of the trajectory of you being a musician and wanting to be a musician?
Mm. Um, well, it all started when I was 8 years old. Um, well, it's interesting. So I was watching some family videos the other day, and there's this video of me like 2 years old. Um, I think it was my birthday, maybe I don't remember, but I had this little toy saxophone, like kind of like the saxoboom from Jack Black. I don't know if you know that
Yeah,
clip,
yeah, hell yeah.
but it was like that. I was like playing it, so it was a little foreshadowing. But um, when I was 8 years old, I yeah, I just all the teachers came to my school, fourth grade, and they all kind of did a demonstration of there was a trombone player, sax player, a drummer, tuba, like a full on jazz band, and and they just played some cool shit. And the sax player was wearing sunglasses. And he had white hair. And he played out the side of his mouth like this, and I was like, that dude's a badass. That's just what I remember about him. I was like, that's the coolest dude up there. So that's the instrument I want to play. And um, Later, I realized actually drums is probably maybe cooler than sax. I do think drums is very badass, just freaking destroying shit the whole time. But okay. Anyway, I picked sax, and I brought it home, and it was like meant to be, man. I just remember taking it out of the plastic wrap, putting it together, and I could just play it. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I picked it up very quickly, and my parents didn't really have to push me at all with it. It just came naturally. Um, and I kind of excelled through school as a sax player, doing all the all states and district competitions, jazz, classical. Um, that was just my thing. I was like, okay, this is what I do. Um, and it kind of makes sense. It's like I enjoyed it. It came easily, and I got praised for it. So it was like perfect storm. Why wouldn't I do that?
Yeah, just
And
naturally made
I
sense.
just yeah, and I just kept going with that. There was like a minute where I was like, I want to be a Navy SEAL, and then there was a minute where I was like, no, I want to be an architect. But those were like very short periods during high school where I considered alternative paths. I think I like saw some Navy SEAL training video, and I was like, that's so badass. It's way more badass than sax. um, and then I thought about it
Were you
more.
playing shows in high school or before, or were your first shows really in
Yeah,
New York?
no, I was playing shows in high school. I had a great teacher named Yasko Kubota, um, and she was a Japanese power jazz pianist. That's what she called her music, power jazz. They were so sick.
That sounds
Like,
sick.
oh, if you can look them up, Kubota Power Jazz Unit was their name. And Archie, her husband, um, is just a shredding bass player. And basically, they kind of took me under their wing, and she gave me jazz lessons at a very young age. Like, she was the first teacher that was like my super advanced teacher, and she pushed me really hard to be better. Um, because all my teachers were kind of like, you should study with somebody more advanced. And they pointed me in the direction of her, and she really helped excel me. Actually, it's interesting. This another saxophonist, great saxophonist, Grace Kelly, um, also studied with her. So we both studied with her. We're both from the kind of Boston area. Um, yeah, man. So she used to have me play with her at this Chinese restaurant called the Yangtze, and um, it was just the most shredding jazz, and I was so scared every time to go play with them because they were just such monsters. And her husband is a straight up samurai, like literally. He's a taiko drumming master, multiple black belt. I don't know if you know about taiko drumming, but like,
Yeah.
dude, just he's like a literal samurai. Has samurai swords. He's sick at martial arts, like, and he's super nice. But when he plays, you know how some people just turn mean and scary when they start playing? Like he's one of those. Um, so I was so intimidated, but they were really gracious and let me play with them. And another person who really helped me out was Mike Flanagan. He used to let me sit in on his gigs,
Wow.
and um, but my first like gig as a solo artist was when I was 16 at this place called Gilda's Stone Rooster down in Marion, Massachusetts. And it was like this old dive run by this 80-year-old lady who's now passed. She died almost 100. She almost made it to 100. She was 99. But that place was keeping her going, man. She would come out dancing, and she was so cool, man. She always had different jazz acts come through there, and just a real badass lady, um, Gilda. And we used to have a monthly gig there. So I put together a jazz quartet, and we would just play standards. And all the locals would come get drunk and watch us kids play jazz. It was kind of weird, but also fun.
I mean, that's how you start. That's how you do it, right?
exactly.
Is there any other way? No, I don't think so. I think drunk people are
No.
just naturally the first to check it out, you know?
Yep. Yep.
Uh,
God bless them.
God bless them. God bless these messes. Um, you kind of going on to something else. You talk you have some philosophy within your lyrics, and I mean you were even talking about earlier. You guys play at tree planting. Wow, that was really hard to say. Tree planting
Yep.
things. You actually have a line in Fire Drill, one of your songs. We need some bliss while we decimate the earth. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think in general you're about, positivity and sustainability. Can you kind of talk about where that came from or anything you kind of want to
Mm,
just mention to people or kind of what are your thoughts about in general the world as is and
man, boy. Um, well, where to start? I'd say like in my early 20s, I kind of had somewhat of an awakening in terms of my moral compass and like what is important to me. Um, a lot thanks to this wonderful woman, Dara Silverman, who Wenzel was dating at the time. Um, and she was vegan, but she wasn't like a throw red paint on you vegan. She was like nice and chill about it. She's like, I do this because of this, this, and this. And um, she just kind of like gently educated me. I was super hardcore meat eater. I was like, you will die if you don't eat meat. That was my perspective. I'm like, you're literally gonna die like in a week. I remember like I was so convinced about all that. Anyway, she kind of showed me some things. I read some stuff. I read a great book, Eating Animals, watched some documentaries. You know the drill, like
Mhm.
modern day education. But a lot of that stuff really hit home because I love animals, man. I never really like I never put it together. I never put the face of slaughter to the meal. I never like sat through it and like stomached it because my whole life I've loved animals. I love petting zoos and dogs and cats. I just like always connected with them. So I just was like, damn, this is messed up. Um, and she was also like, and you'll get like lean because I was kind of chubby. I was drinking a bunch, eating Reuben sandwiches, 2 a.m., like going hard. And I wanted to change some stuff. So I tried it out. I remember going around school, like asking everybody for vegetables. I was so uneducated in terms of like what to eat and how to, I was like, what kind of vegetables should I eat? I had a notepad, like writing broccoli, asparagus, carrots. um, so it was a journey, man. I wasn't like vegan instantly. Like I kind of slowly cut out meat and cheese. Cheese took longer for me to get rid of.
Yeah, pizza. That's just that's always been the kicker with me.
Fire,
Yeah, it's just
fire.
right there. It's hard.
It
But yeah,
just is fire. I mean, I ate meat for 22 years of my life. Like
yeah,
I walk by barbecues and I'm like, that smells amazing. Still,
yeah.
um, that doesn't mean I'm gonna eat it, but I appreciate the smell. It's like,
No, I mean
it brings back memories.
when I had never had meat before, like I smelled barbecue and I was like, there's something to that. Even
Definitely,
there's something in
definitely,
us. Yeah.
of course. But anyway, um, so that was kind of the first step towards me becoming an environmentalist, if you will. Um, somebody who cares about the environment and about the planet and the people and animals on it. And that started shaping my views, man, like in terms of world politics and who has the power and all that stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it's a very much like a ground up approach, like just what we eat
Hmm.
and goes into everything else.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. I started learning about like Monsanto and these companies that do not have our best interests. Like the, I guess I just realized like, wow, this system is not built to make Earth better or
Interesting.
to help people ultimately. It's here to extract and infinite growth. It's like the infinite growth model, right? It's like, let's just grow forever, no matter how much extraction it takes, which is obviously insanity. I mean, you can see it now with everything, the forests, the mines that these devices we're using, all these little precious metals, these mines in these faraway countries that we're just decimating. You know, it's rough when you really think about it and look at it. And it can be depressing and sometimes immobilizing. I've had to actually step away, takes like because there was a time where I was really focused on it and really like I need to change this, and it started affecting my mental health in a negative way, um, because I started really carrying the whole world on my metaphorical shoulders, you know.
Yeah.
So, um,
No, absolutely. It's rough, and I think everybody's trying to deal with how to deal in general right
yeah,
now, because like we're not the ones in power, and yeah, it almost feels like a little too little, yeah, too little, too late sort of deal. But I totally get that.
yeah.
So how do you stay
My
positive? What do you how do you connect? Let's turn this around. How do you connect with
yeah,
people, and how do you kind of bring your music, and like do you see the value of bringing people together for something like happy, getting together like
absolutely. Well, that's where I was going to go with it. You know, I think that as as rough as things are, we can't individually change everything. I think ultimately for the world to change, we're going to need a mass consciousness shift, one towards love and togetherness, and that starts with us as people, individuals, looking within ourselves and being honest with what's happening within ourselves and how we feel. Really simple things that we neglect because we're so busy, and we put it last. You know, sometimes people put it all the way to the end of their lives, where they don't spend any time with themselves, being honest with them, and just being. You know, I think until we can all kind of tap in and see that we're all connected, it's going to be difficult. And until that point, all we can do is our individual efforts. So that's why I try to just focus on positive things like the tree planting events, raising money at our shows. Um, Trees sequester carbon. It's a very simple solution. We're cutting down trees at an exponential rate, so we need to be planting them at an even faster rate. Um, so I just want to be part of that movement, and Moon Hooch is facilitating that. You know, we plant each tree planting event. We try to plant over 1,000 trees, um, and we have a couple hundred of our fans come out, and uh, it's a great time. We all plant. It happens so fast. That's the other thing that's beautiful about these events is that you see when people come together, how quickly things are accomplished. Things that are with just if you or I were to try and plant 1,000 trees, it would take a week, 2 weeks. I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of trees, but with 200 people, it's like a couple of hours. It's done, and then we
and
can
it's fun.
party.
Yeah.
It's done. It's fun. We can party, and it's an event. You know, so that's the kind of future we're trying to build, and we'd like to create festivals eventually, and events that are focused on this kind of thing, where it's not just show up, drink the solo cup, throw it on the ground, but rather come. It's a party. It's still a festival, but um, everybody works on the land a little bit and to whatever they're capable of doing, you know, and chips in some way. And I think it's just such a beautiful way to come together. Um,
Yeah.
so that's the kind of thing I'm trying to create.
I love that concept. I kind of in my head, I'm like, what if there was just kind of a festival you had that you were basically the idea is you need to take care of this area, clean up this area, and then everybody comes and checks out the music. Everybody who pays money is just getting the bands there and the facilitating like
Yep.
something fun. But everybody's like, yeah, bring your own water bottles, bring your own stuff, pack it in, pack it out. We have some stuff to do. We'll party at night. And
Exactly.
I think that that's such a really cool concept. It would, and the blatant consumerism is like what's kind of killing everything. And
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like we could talk to you about this forever, but that's really, really cool. And yeah, I mean, honestly, you're inspiring me in general, and I'm sure everybody listening right now. I just have a few more questions for you, and I'll let you. Thank you so much for doing this. First off,
Yeah, no problem.
um, what do you think? Just for any musicians out there listening, what do you think a musician that's actually trying to grow should be doing every single day? I mean, other than practicing, obviously, but like, what do you think as somebody who's trying to be in the business of music? What do you think they should be doing every single day?
I would say if you already feel like you have your sound dialed, you feel confident in what you do, then putting yourself out there, social media, um, releasing music. Obviously you can't release music every day, but I try to be working on my music every day so that I have releases ready. Um, because a lot of the revenue I make now is through streams. Even though we get such a minuscule amount, if you have a big song that gets 10 million streams, that adds up to a lot of cash. So um,
Like
obviously we're
like
being we're
Smash
being
for
ripped
you
off.
has 13
Smash.
million. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
that's
Exactly. That
crazy.
was great for me. And um, so and that was just a track, like I didn't expect that track to anything to happen with that. I think I spent like an hour on it.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe with an hour like composing and recording.
Yeah, no,
It just
I
was it came out all at once. You know what I mean?
wasn't
It was
something that
like
took like a month to like get, for the whole entire.
no,
No, okay, yeah. I mean, because
no. It was
it's just
like,
such a vibe. I mean, instant from the first second, you're like, oh, I know what this is gonna, and this is the feeling that I want. It's such a
oh
vibe.
yeah,
That's the idea.
thank you. Yeah, exactly. And I try to write my music like that. Like I think years ago I heard a John Lennon quote that was like, try to get the form complete in the first go. Like try and get it from A to Z, the verse, you know, pre-chorus, chorus, verse two, bridge, chorus, whatever the form is. Get it all out. Get at least a melody happening, bass line, drum idea, and um, I've been kind of living by that. Like I really try to, if I'm going to go into the studio, I want to at least have enough time to do that because I find that while sometimes I'll have a cool bass line, if I don't push through, because sometimes the bass line will come out really easily, and it'll just be like, oh, it's a great vibe. But now I'm not really hearing anything. And if I don't spend that hour or however long it takes to uh, flush that out, then coming back to it the next day or 2 days later, it's like that vibe isn't the same vibe anymore. You can play off of it now, but you're in a different space now inherently. Um, so I find that to be very, very valuable to try and get it out in one go if you can.
I think
Try.
I needed to
Yeah,
hear that because like yeah, I feel like when I'm writing with somebody and then I'll be like, oh, we'll write a bridge next time we get together.
right.
And then you're like, I don't, what the hell were we even doing? And it's like you kind of leave this thing
Yeah,
that's like kind of like dangling that was supposed to be like a at least one version of something.
exactly.
I
But
love that.
it takes a push though,
Yeah,
because for me, like hooks come really easily. Like I usually write choruses, but as the first thing that comes out, it's the hook. You know the
yeah,
and then I'm like, shit, I gotta write verses. I
yeah.
gotta write verses, and verses are always the hardest thing for me. So, um, yeah, but when I sit there and I'm like, and I do it, it's good. It by the end, I'm like, yeah, okay, it makes sense now. It might take a second to see the whole thing, but so that's how I try to do it. And to be honest, if I don't do that, it usually sits on my hard drive forever and will never become anything.
Gotcha. All right. All right. So the advice would be for people to just get something done. If you're inspired and you have the time, just like try to
Do it.
finish something to start off.
Yes.
I like
Finish
that.
shit. Just do it. Like, and don't be a perfectionist. In this day and age, that's old news. Like, it's so fast paced now. There's no going back. It's just maybe there is maybe eventually humanity will slow down, and we're gonna have to. But right now, if you want to survive in the lava field of the music industry. Like you got to just pump shit out, and that's hard because a lot of people aren't like that, and I get it. Like, um, it's tough, man. But
Yeah,
yeah,
because
I would say
you
just
also have like a lot of toys and like you have like synthesizers, you have pedals, you have like Ableton, which you
yeah,
can go infinite on, and then at some point
exactly.
you're like, okay, this is like a writing session,
Yeah,
right? Because
yes, exactly.
okay,
Yo, man. I mean, honestly, I need more just like free play in my life. Like when I have the time in the studio, it's like writing session. There's no like if the first thing I come up with isn't good within a few minutes, I throw it out and I move on to the next idea. I'm pretty harsh with my stuff. I don't really let it like, oh, maybe it'll be good eventually. It's like, no, I don't like it now. It's done.
where did you get
You
that
know,
from? Was that just like a philosophy you've kind of developed over the years, or is that something that somebody taught you more or less?
man, that's a good question. I guess I've just kind of developed it over the years. I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about that one. That's good.
Well,
Uh,
you definitely have the finger on the pulse as far as the music industry. I mean, I think you just been living it for so long in general.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, you were definitely like one of the poster children of like how to be a successful musician in this time. Because you also teach every once in a while too. I didn't really get into
yeah,
that, and
yeah. I do.
you give a lot of value to the people who are watching your social media content too. It's funny, it's engaging, you're learning something, you try stuff out that people wouldn't think to try out.
Hell yeah.
So that's really cool
Thanks,
though.
man.
And yeah,
I really
and you're also
appreciate that.
making some really pretty crazy. I mean, you have 247,000 monthly listeners. That's wild. That's people listening to your lyrics, your songs,
Yeah.
everything, and your collaborations and learning about you. So that's it's rad. And
Thank you so much.
I hope you can appreciate that.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely, absolutely.
I got a couple more philosophical type questions, and
Hmm.
then we'll peace out.
Yeah.
What do you do to deal with imposter syndrome? Whenever you feel like you don't stack up, if that ever comes into your
Mm.
mind, how do you
Oh
recommend
yeah,
people deal with it and just keep moving forward on their own stuff?
man. It is so easy. We live in a society that is designed. We're pit against each other. Where the social media and the followers and the likes and the views and the listens. It's like it's such a game. It's so easy to fall into comparisons, especially if you're a competitive person, which I am and uh, and have been in my life. Um, so for me, anytime I start to find myself comparing myself to others, I just try to notice how it makes me feel, and it's kind of like the drinking. It's like, I don't like the way this feels. It doesn't make me feel good to compare myself to others, even if I'm like, I'm above this person and I have more whatever than them. It's like, it's all bullshit. That's not real value. Those
Doesn't
aren't the
help
things I
anybody.
truly, doesn't help anybody. And those aren't the things I truly value as a person. So, um, I've gotten pretty good at, um, squashing that pretty quick. Not squashing it, but just noticing it and not allowing it to hijack me, right? Because we always have a choice to respond to whatever happens, whether that be a trigger or a thought. We have the choice to respond in that moment. And um, I think for me, I've just been refining that choice, being able to make that choice in the moment and be like, okay, I'm not going to look at that. Sometimes if there's a particular person that I'm like comparing myself to and it has a negative impact on me, I just will stop doing it, you know? And and I try to just do that with life. It's like, if this isn't serving me, why am I doing it? And being really honest about that. And it's good to do those kind of deep dives with yourself, because you can uncover a lot about your deep stories, your inner motives, these kind of things. So, um, and also, I'm trying to see everything as a gift. Like, no matter all the difficulties are here to help us grow. That's really truly what I believe. That no matter what happens to us, it's ultimately here to help us grow. And I've been, if I just look back at my life, the hardest times, now I see as some of the greatest lessons and some of the greatest blessings as well. Um, I've learned what I like, what I don't like, where my boundaries are, um, where my trigger points are, with all of these things. And you can't learn that stuff unless you live life and have hard times. So it's like working out. Working out is not always pleasant. If you want to grow, I've just recently been like bulking and trying to get stronger. And I've just been pushing myself. You push to failure, and it's not comfortable when you do that. It hurts. It feels good afterwards, but it's like, oh, it's kind of scary sometimes. You have a ton of weight on your back doing a squat. It's like,
Yeah.
but it's the benefit you get from that afterwards that keeps bringing you back. And you need to rupture to grow. It's like the muscle needs to tear to get stronger. So I see the same thing in life, and I try to live by that as much as I can. I'm by no means a master of it, but
You're not perfect.
I'm a practitioner.
That's awesome. And hey, talk about a lot about mindfulness, and I think that's a really beautiful thing. Just kind of being aware of who you are, and I think that's really what goes into being the kind of musician you are. And really appreciate that. Just in general, this has been a lovely talk, dude. Thank you so much for your time. Let's talk about anything you have coming up. Why don't you talk about tree planting? Why don't you talk about touring? Why don't you talk about things you've just released, what you're about to release? What do you have going on?
So I'm playing the Soulshine Reverie Festival on this Friday, May 24th. And then the tree planting event is in Gainesville, New York, a place I've never heard of. I think it's like an hour outside of Buffalo. And that is on May 26th, Sunday. And then we're playing Mountain Music Festival the following week. And then I go on tour with Thundersmack, and that is from the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th of June. And really looking forward to that. We have a bunch of new music we're going to be playing. And I'm actually dropping a track this Friday with one of my good friends and collaborators, Tony O'Sagan. He's a great lyricist. That's coming out on Friday. And Moon Hooch has a new album coming out soon. The first track is going to drop on June 28th. And we have a bunch of very silly content that we're releasing with that, very silly. And that's going to be fun. Yeah, man. I mean, the year is jam packed. Then we go to Europe in August and doing a Canadian run at the end of June. Europe, and then what else? Lots of weddings this year, friends' weddings, unrelated, but just like an abnormal amount of weddings this year. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, then we're doing a big fall tour. All the dates are on moonhooch.com or on my website, michaelwilbursax.com. And yeah, follow me at Michael Wilbur Sax on all platforms, and at Moon Hooch, at We Are Thundersmack. And I appreciate you having me on, man.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being on. This is such a pleasure. Hope to see you in the future. Yeah. And enjoy your evening. All right.
Appreciate you, brother. Take care.
Yeah. You have a good night. Later.
Peace.
Hey, for the love of God, please subscribe to our Patreon for like $1 a month. That would help out a lot. Podcasts are, fun fact, really expensive to run, and I really enjoy doing this. So if you want to keep on seeing stuff like this, help me out. Also, like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and I really hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.